The war Clara Vance had declared wasn't fought with screaming matches or thrown objects. It was waged in conference rooms and legal offices with the precision of a surgeon and the ruthlessness of a general. While Julian slept peacefully in their bed, convinced his wife would eventually forgive him, as she always had, Clara was 3 moves ahead in a chess game he didn't even realize had begun. Monday morning arrived like a guillotine blade, swift, silent, and final. At precisely 6 a.m., Clara stood in her home gym, not on a treadmill, but conducting a video conference with the precision of a military briefing. Her body moved through perfect yoga poses while her mind orchestrated Julian's destruction. The faces on the wall-mounted screen were grim and attentive. Marcus Thorne, her lead counsel whose tailored suit seemed woven from pure competence. David Chen, her chief financial officer who lived and breathed spreadsheets, and Maria Gonzalez, her head of PR who could spin a hurricane into a gentle breeze. "He did it in front of Harrison Montgomery," Clara stated, her voice crisp as she held a warrior pose. "That's irrecoverable. Project Severance is a go. Full execution." Marcus adjusted his glasses, his expression grave. "Clara, it's airtight. Your prenuptial agreement, which Julian signed without, I might add, the robust counsel I recommended he seek, is unequivocal. It contains a reputational damage clause. Clause 11B, publicly disparaging you or Vance Global in a manner that could impact shareholder confidence or brand integrity constitutes a material breach. And the consequences of that breach?" Clara asked, transitioning smoothly into tree pose. "A full and immediate forfeiture of all non-vested stock options, bonuses, and severance pay. Crucially, it also triggers the dissolution of any and all affiliated brand naming rights." A slow, predatory smile touched Clara's lips. The Croft Connoisseur Collection, the crown jewel Julian thought he owned, was about to vanish like smoke. David Chen's voice cut through the morning air with the precision of an accountant delivering a death sentence. "I've completed the forensic audit. It's worse than we thought. He wasn't just funding his affair, he was building a nest egg. Over the last 24 months, $4.7 million has been systematically diverted through shell companies registered to Sienna Lauren and her family members. The evidence was devastating. Inflated invoices for non-existent services, personal expenses disguised as business costs, and a luxury apartment in Soho paid for with company funds where his mistress lived rent-free. Julian hadn't just been stealing from the company, he'd been stealing from Clara herself. "This is no longer about infidelity," Clara said quietly, her voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "This is grand larceny." Maria Gonzalez leaned forward on the screen, her PR instincts sharp as a blade. "When this breaks, Julian will try to paint himself as the victim, the creative genius ousted by his cold, calculating wife. I need to get ahead of that narrative." "What do you have in mind?" Clara asked. "A feature in Forbes. The visionary reclaims her throne. We frame this as a strategic corporate restructuring, a bold move to streamline the brand and refocus on core values. Julian won't be a victim, he'll be a footnote, a legacy brand being phased out to make way for innovation." "Perfect," Clara said. "Execute." The screens went blank. Clara held her pose for another 10 seconds, her body a pillar of strength and control. The silent war was being waged on all fronts, legal, financial, and narrative. And Julian was sleeping soundly, completely unaware that his world was being systematically dismantled. By Wednesday, Julian was beginning to notice that something was wrong, though he couldn't quite put his finger on what. Clara remained distant, communicating only through her assistant for logistical matters. His attempt at reconciliation, a massive bouquet of rare orchids sent to her office, earned him nothing but a polite typed thank you note from her assistant. He spent his days in meetings for the Croft Connoisseur Collection, planning a new hotel launch in Monaco, feeling important and relevant. But odd things were happening. His CFO was suddenly unavailable, locked in meetings at Vance Global headquarters. IT had sent a team to perform what they called a system-wide data integrity audit, which involved copying his entire hard drive. When he complained, he was told it was a company-wide initiative mandated from the top. Meanwhile, in Clara's corner, Office David Chen laid a 100-page dossier on her desk, like a prosecuting attorney presenting evidence to a jury. The apartment in Soho, the art collection, even a lease on a private garage for a Maserati, all purchased with company funds under the guise of staging materials for hotel suites that were never built, David reported. He created an entire shadow lifestyle funded by Vance Global. Clara read the summary without a flicker of expression. Her marriage had been a lie, but more importantly, her business partnership had been a crime. She picked up her phone and made another call to Marcus Thorne. "Marcus, we have a new development, embezzlement. I want a parallel criminal complaint drawn up. We won't file it yet, but I want it ready. A little extra leverage." By Friday, the atmosphere around Julian had become suffocating. People avoided his gaze in the halls. His calls to senior executives went to voicemail. His keycard was mysteriously denied access to the executive floor, a glitch that took an uncomfortably long time to fix. Finally, he confronted Clara's executive assistant, a woman who had been with Clara for 20 years and possessed the loyalty of a Praetorian guard. "What the hell is going on?" Julian demanded, his famous charm cracking like old paint. "Is Clara trying to freeze me out? If she's going to be childish, she could at least have the decency to tell me." The assistant looked up at him with neutral professionalism. "Mrs. Vance has scheduled a special board meeting for Monday at 9 a.m. Your attendance is mandatory. I believe all your questions will be answered then." A board meeting on a Monday morning. A cold dread, real and profound, finally washed over Julian. This wasn't about hurt feelings or an apology gift. This was something methodical and terrifying. He spent the weekend in escalating panic, calling his contacts on the board, but they were suddenly tight-lipped. He tried to access his company financial portals from home, but his credentials had been suspended pending the system audit. He was flying blind into a storm, and he knew with bone-chilling certainty that Clara was the one who had summoned it. The woman he had mocked, dismissed as the queen of the balance sheet, had spent the week in silence. But it wasn't the silence of anger. It was the silence of a general planning a massacre. And Monday morning was 0 hour. As Sunday night fell over Manhattan, Julian sat in his study with a tumbler of whiskey, staring out at the city lights that had once seemed to twinkle with promise. Now they looked like the eyes of predators watching from the darkness. He tried calling Sienna, but her phone went straight to voicemail. Even his mistress, it seemed, could sense which way the wind was blowing. Across the penthouse, Clara stood. In her dressing room, selecting her outfit for the execution. She chose a charcoal gray dress with severe architectural lines, the wardrobe equivalent of a judge's robes. Her only jewelry would be her wedding ring, a final ironic touch before she removed it forever. Tomorrow, she would take back everything. That had always been hers. Tomorrow, Julian Croft would learn the most expensive lesson of his life. Never underestimate the woman who built the empire you call home. The dragon had been patient long enough. Now it was time for the fire.